Yura at Forson today across the country beyond Obiano train budgeter eba or main if free sabria copy Mississippi from and I say you bear the mid-year review budgeter and no the can't see here ebia yend me the ensanso asomua ebia ensanso muye the akopaka ho ebeba de. This is the official budgeter in the year 2025, and of course, Ibedamre na yet to me at the home Kobo Tienche, Yarabako and crying. Now the House of Parliament, a budget readings no at me at the abroad. All the members of Parliament, me MP, have supported my MP for a Joso Kobra Boateng say or walk my civil job have supported my residence MP for a squad. One participate and so hobby me who say subi myself with so who I could do for Mensia North. I've seen also in Parliament say the member of Parliament for Elembele I'm a coffee bomino Masibu Jamo I'm good name na every day the budget the NDC they bring the idea that budget to so no yet to be reviewed. The expectations are so high can afford anymore say tax who will be a Banyoko NDC bontoa of the two Janino. Some bomb year free ho. Omanya kwenye ometu year free ho the ama. One of those taxes no the betting tax. Most of the youth in this country who say the NDC Amanyoko abai ometu me year free ho. I'm say I'm on a kwaba na yeah the expectations waiting for the year at Forson. Ama boko.
Say Mike nyame adom bibia boko.
Good. My name sir
EZRA 94.1.
I'm Penada for Dubai. The finance minister, the longest in the Fourth Republic.
Mr. White.
Kinofurata. Who's on Walker? Yeah, no, Sir White.
Mr. White, yeah.
Now, when you're in the brown bag, no, they put on the car.
No, yachia.
Now, on the free hall. And I mean by.
Okay, yeah.
On no, or by no dear, on no arm fat. We are back. What do you call it? One far bag be a brown bag be a man. Chambers and a brother who already be on the brown bag be quiet. What are you expecting today? That is Parliament for you. Will be at Nasi. Your expectations.
Said you can't on the morning show. Nah, no. Maybe I may say, I did the share one said resetting. And your major and your man say, penny 4 class on your man, you go and I want to say. So say your man and you go. Man penny Mahama say, oh, but she should be beer. Nanny, you know, quack or weary sick as some. I never can once me. And to the amount would be a MY and Maniaji, a dear beer and Dr. Cassiel at Forson, yeah, no. Answer no bell ready budget, you won't say what from any ready for and Rams Accra Business District Hono, 1 year ready for my tuntuma. Oh, say your share. Your share.
Ready budget on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then on Sunday, what's the name? Mabuna Ghana.
Accra Business District.
No, on Sunday. We say, or the social media interaction. About 60,000 of people interacting.
Yeah.
And now, what's my call the Central Business District in Accra? Manager before no equal could income. I don't know why, because everyone could do could you know. Any impact be our budget.
Okay.
What the car drafted with that. So what the car call last week, and a could or massam. And then they all could
don't you think, sir, on him the oil? He knows best because made many Freddy. I stand to be corrected, but this is the first time I met who said finance minister Nankasa esi from usually on by way and come opposition. More opposition dia omutimi si from kodwom e ko bisa nema board beto Ghana for any but incumbent na a finance minister be step down no. We are hoping say e ne papa mu a enkoya na nkoda da dream.
And then I call the budget.
Yes.
So the old trade we and it's EZRA around this time.
And like I said, he knows best. Sebia enya relevant. I mean, you need senko beko. Enya re, see a re. Eti akona nim kakra na say ye hunu so a. Eno na de ebebu sansa papa yi na dwom na ukoye no. Na de ukokoye den. Eti like I was saying no. Ye hwe se dom se resetting. Ombeto to niema no. Eto ahodo a omo aka say hu hia. E-levy koye hu cake ni ade nyina no. Wo mo ka say hu hia. Eno nti ye hwe ekwan a wo mo de befa so and ebi mo so argument ne say E11 no man nya sika wo mpa eti akoba ni say na ye yidi afiri ho no bede no man no anya sika de ahya nan ebi kire say no ntina ba ne de road toll ene ade nyina ye den e be sha nan ti ye
road toll no ebetimi areki in that money because where E11 in 2024 am I 2.4 billion Ghana cedis
okay
for the E11 okay betting tax am I 1.2 billion the COVID-19 am I 4 billion so if you look at this now road toll
and this were the same people they spoke against nyane ketwa mu omo kasetia E11 time aban na ade ba no yenim de ekwoso a ko wiewie ya cake ye ko pie mu omo beda si ni ade abandada ne beda si bepem na yenim nipa wo de sa we ni koye they are the same people omo kasetia ye ena omo campaign promises no so no say Mike omo di shemu say omo ba omo be yi di afrim.
Oh yes, all the major political parties,
of course,
both MPP NDC
quite am a pessimist because more na mo de buy nti senya aha enti I am sure say no said the asase na omo bo anwoso na omo abom so ba enioma yie no ye gidi say ebia omo yie free ho no omo ohyehyɛ ahodo de begu akwam ebia ne say 6 March independence celebration kra no president decide as a cost bia ye boy ye mfie bia besna twam no afi we wo te ne ma so a ekowie ye mampanisi ye te ka no so 95% em say finance minister so be ka 75% eno kra na ase ho no ebrabo kakra wo but ni nyina no ye nim say e measures bia abani so odi gu akwam ti nyina no when the first time oboba amemwe mu kra na say ye ntimi nka so manya boso miensa pepepe afi no mashase a reset no ekoso nti ye hwe akenkan na wie ye no ye ne mpanifo bi so bedi nkomo omo maben e wo sikasem nso ye ne ombedi nkomo na de atoto ho ahwe say abani hye no ebeboa ye ne a
but mamenkwa ho man so na mene EZRA Asantia de a lecturer at Kumasi Technical University or economist. And in command pay your chance finance minister by no be ready the budget. No, you must say it was Sabria our almost sector a basic as a woman. At the end, no more head him say finance minister. I also catch the Ghana in there. EZRA Asantia more channel pay. Namia dum ye ho ye dum so so ho ye pa namia dum edru sabre ya the ordinary Ghanaian ni say ye ko ready budget the tomatoes hwe aso bete so ye say bia o ekwan a ewo fufula ana odi free axim e de ko ebia baby te say telebuko bukazo ye be ye eno ana ye hwe dem but mo am we skase mu no. The issue of E11 betting tax and COVID-19, what will be the effect?
Hello.
Is that what you mean? You reconnect Mr. Asante. But what you mean? Katina Monsan and friend. So, who said the ordinary Ghanaian? I don't know what tomatoes. Now you answer, say, by a coin. So, but Sika de by a coin on KO. Your budget Biana, this Kumasi Accra Highway, Mekaisa and my budget Mukurano, 15 years in it.
Abba,
there be a you Kumasi Accra, Kumasi Accra Highway. Takra de Accra. And then, okay.
Hello.
What do you mean?
If I try. Hello.
What do you mean?
I'm a joker.
Very well. Eddie cannot be said. I didn't know second and India or Asia TV, AT and pay or chance the finance minister at the budget the banner. At the end, I was why expecting.
Okay. So, me check you boy. Generally, in Ghana for expectations, you know, they say, a washer, a buyer, or help with your multi or share, one brand, I campaign, or betting me at this one. ebi ni sɛ ɔbɛn sure sɛ there is macroeconomic stability ɛnneɛma bo a ɛkɔ soro na ade wɔ mɛmɔ sɛ ho kyerɛ ba no aban hyɛ bɔ sɛ ɛto abama na ɔbɛhwɛ sɛ nneɛma bo bɛgyina enti amanfoɔ hwɛ anim sɛ ɔde nneɛma bɛgu akwan mu a ɛbɛma ayɛ possible sɛ nneɛma bo a ɛkɔ ɛsoro ɔman mu kanka exchange rate ebetumi agyina faako akyɛ ama inflation nso aba fam kakra deɛ ɛtɔ so mmienu ne sɛ ɔhyɛ ɛbɔ bi sɛ ɔde 24-hour economy bɛba amanfoɔ hwɛ anim fa sɛ budget yi ɛbɛka ho asɛm ne akyerɛ direction a yɛkɔ ɛyɛ 24-hour economy no sɛ mmerɛ bɛn na ɛhyɛ aseɛ adwuma bɛn mu na ɛbɛba nkɔfoɔ dodoɔ sɛ ne bɛtumi afa wɔn adwuma ne ɛkeka ka ho deɛ ɛtɔ so bio ɛyɛ taxes bi wɔ hɔ a aban ne hyɛ mmɔ sɛ ɔba power na ɛtɔ ɔbama na ɔbɛyiyi saa taxes no firi hɔ ebi te sɛ e-levy covid-19 tax ɛne betting tax titiri amanfoɔ hwɛ anim sɛ ɔbɛyi saa nneɛma ɛsoɔ na mmea nkasa deɛ adeɛ baako a mehwɛ anim ne sɛ aban bɛbɔ ne ho mmɔden sɛ ɔde nneɛma bɛgu akwan mu a nneɛma a yɛ export anaa nneɛma a ebi to yɛ mɛm kɔtɔ na manane no yɛbɛtumi ade value to yɛbɛtumi adaadaa n'ani amakɔ aburokyi atumi anya boɔ kɛse ama yɛ na nneɛma a yɛ import no bebree nso bɔ ɔman mu no aban de nneɛma bɛgu akwan mu a yɛbɛte so na yɛne ankasa bɛproduce saa nneɛma yi ɛwɔ ɔman mu a ɛba ne saa ne yɛproduce yɛpromote made in Ghana goods a ɛbɛma demand for imported goods na aba fam yɛnya sika nso a ɛso ɛfiri amanɔne abɛhyɛ ɔman mu ɛba saa pɛ exchange rate no bɛgyina akyɛ paa ma ɔman yi ahotaba bɛne wumie no so.
One issue of concern akɔyɛ sɛ aban ebeyi some taxes every way. Where then do we get money? Ɛde abɔman yi ho bra.
Nokorɛ tax de wonya yi firi hɔ akyerɛ sɛ revenue ɛyɛ aban sika ɛsɛ gonya na afei na so bɛte saa na asɛ kyerɛ enti ɛkɔ ɛbɛnyina sɛ aban ɔbɛka kyerɛ Ghanafoɔ nyinaa sɛ wɔyi saa toɔ no afiri hɔ no wɔde si adeɛ source foforɔ bi ba anaa wɔde sika foforɔ bi ba abɛhyɛ anan sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ ɔman no sika sɛm ɛntɔpe ama aban no ho nkyere no enti mehwɛ anim sɛ rotos aban baako no twaa mu no aban wei ɛkɛbɛtumi a ɔnsan fa mmra na emu nyɛ sɛ ɔde ba kɛkɛ ɔde ba a ɔbɛhwɛ hunu sɛ ɔbɛtumi ama automation bi ayɛ adwuma a nipa a gyigyi sika no ɛbɛyi ɔmo afiri hɔ na yɛde machines ɛbɛgyigyi sika no na ɛtoɔ no a yɛtua no nso no first deɛ yɛtua 1 cedi yɛmfa nkɔ bɛyɛ sɛ bia 5 cedis na ɔmo no tua 5 cedis yɛmfa nkɔ bɛyɛ sɛ 20 cedis na yɛhwɛ hunu sɛ sika no ɛnniki mfa nkyɛn na mmom ɛbɛkɔ aban hɔ direct deɛ ɛtɔ so mmienu adi low checkpoint a ɛwɔ yɛn akwan so a articulators fa nneɛma akɛse na ɛboro so ɔmo duro hɔ a yɛkɔ check hu sɛ ɛboro so a ne yɛafan ne wɔm sɛ sika no dodoɔ na nyiri fa nkyɛn ɛsɛ sɛ aban hwɛ hu sɛ ɔde nneɛma bɛgu akwan mu a sika no bɛba ne hɔ direct na amanfoɔ ɔmo te hɔ no ɔmo nwia sɛ sika no afei asɛ bɛkɔ awie no bɛda adi sɛ akɔm ha yɛa wobukuma se kɔɔfe nso a akɔm baako wɔ hɔnom na awuraba bi a yɛde ne baa hɔ so bɛyɛ adwuma wɔdimi raise 3 million Ghana cedis a month on the average wɔabrɛ nifo ɔbɛhyɛ nana no na ɔraise 200,000 cedis a month edwuma mpanimfoɔ ɛhwɛ saa deɛ no so no ɔmo sɛ ɔbaa no abaayɔ no mmom ɛnyɛ adwuma no yɛ mmom yi no adi ama ɔmo de obi a ɔde 200,000 pɛ ba no ɛna ɛsan de baeɛ so saa nneɛma nyinaa kyerɛ sɛ nkɔfoɔ bɔ aban korɔ no enti aban bɛduru sɛ sira leakage ni sɛ ɔbɛtuatua no ɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa nkɔfoɔ bebree wɔ ɔman mu a ɔmo yɛ adwuma ɔmo nyɛ sika ɔmo ankasa adwuma na ɔmo yɛ ɔmo ntua soɔ ɛsɛ sɛ aban hwɛ hunu sɛ saa nkɔfoɔ no nyinaa wɔbɛtua soɔ wokɔ new site ɔmo yɛ adwuma hɔ masonfoɔ tilers plumbers ho a ɔmo nyinaa ɔmo ntua tax ɛsɛ sɛ aban de nneɛma gu ɛkɔ hunu sɛ saa nkɔfoɔ ɔmo yɛ ɔmo ankasa adwuma no ɔmo bɛtua toɔ so yɛtumi yɛ saa nneɛma yi a yɛnkɔ abɔtua nkɔka bosia no yɛbɛtumi agye ne ti sika wɔ ɔman mu a ne yɛde atu ɔman no mpɔn.
Beyond omo ayɛ omo adwuma the private sector ometua to are you expecting say ABA and the new taxes be ebeba after say ye 11 COVID need those ones na free one
if I just say
because say beyond the obobosu nyina no are you anticipating say be a minister beba na aka say be a o ya introduce new taxes be addition
obi na nti a omuntia tax no
na me busa say o he ni mo say be a minister beba na o say o e be a what the taxes new ones be aba
94.1
Ege kan ko fo ya o man ka se guma me ka o ma se omuntia tax no unje mo a omuntia me ka omuntia guma so che ye ni a tia tax no ye income e ni e wo for market kan enti unje mo say opportunity be o wa aban be to ni take advantage no dey use more revenue okay finance minister ye bo ni dey for no say come back to for be am na emu oben sure say there is compliance ni che say sanko for ya omuntia to ni na so so mo muntia to ke tiye rezi enough revenue sanko for no ye ko musika omunye bo mi tama so che ye ni ye wo for market kan ni so am ye mu be ye to mo ju mo ye ni kan ni mu charge do ka commercial obi ya ho adwuma yi ni kan ni mu charge na dia sanko for nyina omuntia to fo bi to me to buy a wo charge bi 50,000 yes kan nyina wo dia on paka paper e wa o man tunju because there is me e wa den tax net no e ma ko fa sanko for nyina na yi ni ta bi ko man no we be ja say da bi a kon performance for the system
Ora sana mais kasemi esi aba for no a aban no ade na wose wo ye e wose obeka kire yen se on meye new project bi ha bio na mum the old project on obeto aso and as you expect say on side aim introduce new project
yes project ni dey ya think about bi aba the baba beto no obeto aso and yes bo manika say tikanye tension the one one was when they just can educate no aka it is a capital loss to the state e dey be ya pass that aso na mum eduma ne bi bo no na be kire so ya ba ko no dey take kan nyima be bre na wa di ni sampo and we ja ko aba be para ma aba fu wa be se obeti na we in that revenue no e di no time no aba na sha se so no ankasa expenditure. Another way of raising revenue is one kasa one expenditure no back it so. And you make for ya and we ya and so we catch them when you more revenue we take money. So if you need to take down on government expenditure, that revenue can get the banner from oil, keep you any other mineral sources. If you need to have one kata sentiment getting in answer which you and sign on one kata program of us and so
servicing our debt you say by September na you due even in your how do we get money to service our debt?
How do we get what?
Money to service our debt because you say by September or say na ka hold right there amatu no
servicing our debt there adia a year abai or yeah or 70 data negative impact on it that abai is setting the below the dollar when you take a young to amanonia $1 no why thing dollars no why they promote the exchange rate in the power and cost it is the long-term solution there you make it promote more export more and export when you can add the value the first is a value addition you're not in the so cool say one said the permanent airport no and you pass a ton of raw crude oil you pass a ton of crude oil if you are refining you add the value the value start the public here one you bring more revenue after you yeah refining on the create more employment ama onia akopom the past after yes na da bia ba ko tia exchange rate or the dollar tia ka na ba exchange rate ni so ba for ma hota aba o man they say yeah let's take the ban or to strengthen on the servicing of our debt after we are start we been here around 35.5 billion Ghana cedis that's because we do na back convert into dollars like a tia ka the next one is ban a bit in city if you are buying here you can see the local tax areas are mean tax na buy get get no so good ya make a camo leakages and then government expenditure wastage so just and that the yes and then you just get the one of them.
All right. Dasante ya na say ya be san ba ho after say as we start budget number now we come ya ba
yo me me da ya me come ho no me ma pa
abisa ya ne the economist Asante Ade and I could come from Kumasi Technical University. Ama parliament are breaking for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Reason in an say microphones are only a more parliament. Ibimo enya
FM EZRA 94.1
Ti bia wo MP ne dia enya adwuma. Ti e ba no ye nte. Ti o say breaking na ye ma o ma so service ne be service bia.
Sesia no mu hu say enya adwuma.
Mo ko mo tena so mu say enya adwuma. Sai te mo ko ba say mfidie. Mfidie no ho atechema.
Time bia itimi ho timi techema.
Yate.
Yate. Yes ye twen. Yes ye wa twen ye mu aye twen. E di ni o.
Too much. But am I debt? As of June last year 2024 na ye de ka 608.4 billion Ghana cedis. Kai din kwa no. What do you say IMF nti there were measures are put in place.
Okay.
Most of the countries you don't know, you know more acquire arrangement. This year you do see betria. And you say you what Ghana for do. I say you pampa Ghana for do is not so. Because Ghana you know it's a bet. Obedi bet no. E sika wenya. What's the tax that's no. Yen inflation. COVID obi anu me ya adwen say COVID no yare ne ko. Nti etua COVID levy in a way no anyway bia. But what would you bet na wudi ne dia? Ayi no ba wo tua tax.
Na say wo adwuma kese wo man mu a wo ntua to. Auditor General report be ba fi bia no na ye wo. Okay.
94.1
Yes.
Yo. Auditor General report be bia fi bia no na ye wo ba bia enwunu. Baby e bedwuno ne ye he. E business akese sometimes e bi kwa ya ban mu nipa. A mo ye business akese nya o man so mfaso a they have their ways o mo dey vedi etotua.
Yeah.
I think before say OSP Bakui Amidu ebe free
94.1
is it the current one I stand to be corrected. And who issues by this current one yeah. A lawyer Cassiel Jaben. Current one yeah. Last year the press conference bi a wo ye no obekan say adwuma bi e wo Ghana ha say ya na omo entua to omo ye adwuma omo ntua to na ye penny bi retire soldier penny bi I don't know if you read this press conference ne dia e ma wo ye ya didi e kira de kodru court e ko wie say ye botugu ye were instances bebre yanti say ya na aban be ka kire say ya tete say ya ECG ya de ma private entity aban na to a o me defend ya say ya nto na emum no eto no kwan ya fa so o mjeje ECG sika no e na o ntimi ngigi ni yiye na last year o he sika na wo senka ECG timi jeje ne de o mje ya wo ya sure say sika ne je no no anye.
Oh, there are so many leakages.
Of course. So
the leakages are so many. But me how they say
mama nwie de ka me ka akosi no ye wo sika bebre wo man mu a ye wo wo man mu a se o man na ni kwo ho yie na de o ye ni ye ni yie a enke ni kwa se bebru na wonya adwuma nya na o de ne ho otinyina kwa kogu bet so na ho na ke ko taxi free minim sa wonya me point na se ye ka ne se ye jeje Ghana for mebru
tax no ti bet na wo twa na adwuma no ye
ana ye ka se ye wa adwuma kese a
unya bia I was about to get it.
Okay. Sanity.
Adwuma na wo you. Most of and youth no kwa the twabe.
About the youth no kwa penifoni nya na twa.
And you be o twatwa kese o. The adwuma na wo ye na wonya so mfaso. Le na mfaso le ba be o man ni bi.
Okay. Ana me so me kira won say ye wo nwuma kakra ko ekroma say ya. Bebre ni ntwa to.
Yes.
Enti
we admit that. And no you no correct.
Enti say ye address here, ye addressing free through. Near famra form. eni kwase ye de eni bre ni nyina akosue bebro na ono no oje ne ho a enye no nko aso ye wa kese wo man mu a omo aya ban mu nkrofo a omo ye business wo man mu a omo evade tax eno so yen kan say
that is true
yes
ade ba ko a me hwe ni mu se saban timi ye beboa pa ye nua no ma omo ye omankaso mu nyuma hwe obetime che contract so bi dan ono a mesini no ebi a obesi dan no awie be 3 bedrooms no na ukuta be bia be 50,000
EZRA 94.1
no a charge e bia be 25,000 but on tua to bia ma ban
ye wo problem o kwa e fa so gigi tax kra nkasa wo Ghana ha sei Ghana mo tua taxes na dodo na akwaye aban dwumayefo apart from mason for ni ade a woken ye wo nwuma bebre ho no ma enya aban dwuma mo gi table top mo tua tax bebrebe ye wo enwuma bebre wo Ghana ha sei a e be se no kra be ye consensus say eto otua ni nyina kwaye aban dwumayefo adwadifo eni ankronkra bodwa bebre ebi kwa anya bodwa e ye bosumi adwuma but still wo gi table top nti wo tua to enti ato na nkasa gege ne de ye wo how bebre e wo kwan e fa so gege to e wo Ghana ha sei no because wo hwa omo mo tua no mo na kwaso tua wo omo tua tax bosumi bia no omo ana etua apart from the normal ntokua to ne sang bako ya keke ya agi omo ye adwuma omo tua tax no omo na 2020 tua ne de say Mike e kwan ya ye fa so gigi tax ha no e problem it needs to be addressed
but me it's going to be difficult hwe
EZRA 94.1
the new site amanfo si dan o si Messi ni no imagine it to how you are going to do that is going to be difficult because say by assembly for you you are going to use the district assemblies and the GRA in Abia or move from site. Last time now we propose say about Sanka what we see down. You about site to bar. Mercy knew on where you man on Pia Tona. Or say charging what we see down. It did come before be a business down. It might be out of my contractors one. Say Mercy, you know, say or what certificate or not no. Or 1,000 Ghana to the tax need for the cookie buy. I Ghana ninka enya sa Ghana be ka to so capital no edmo akwa no o ye me am offer so wan charge me so it's going to be very difficult it me so mo ka so ene ye be hwe so anya sika de free after say ye 11 covid 11 free wa I think say it's going to be difficult and na make catch reverend say I feel say yes akọ be say bona na be di anim sa because me nim measures be on betimi dia put in place to ensure say carpenter for mason for the shine for name all those
enyo mo nko aye radio stations bebre wo kroma se ya workers in tua tax
because what it is simple no for an institution like the media
but bebre so we are what say bebre in tua to
well
we are what say bebre me no mienu ya what say bebre tia oh bebre in tua to tia snet ye nuanom journalist bebre in tua to na no we table top tax no one na ekote
okay
but so me so aye de share envelope mo ne amoamo ene de ama no ho na ekwakote bebrebe ye yi the big media houses ni sin chen ya de bebe ba one mile bi mu ni ade ye nyina ye ni tue bebre na ntue nti ye de ani bubu mason for carpenter for ni ayi na ekwa me sin ani omo ani ni ye enwuma bebre e wo Ghana ha se ya ye ntue ato emergency for crowd dey so tidwom a ye be kwakote bibi di ama no but enwuma bebre wa ha sei private schools teachers bebre egumu a ono no boso me so asika na nso bia enti no table no so wono ma na ye de ama no no waje enti ye kasa ye hwede a na ukasa enye ye na I'm thinking say da bia na policy bebre wo hono ma ye say ukwa abrochira ye mpanifo etukwan ye nuano ma etukwan kwa abrochira sabe de oyi gatamu otuato adwuma bia wo ye bia
enye ono no oni gatam as an individual me never have go UK din ko mo say we carpenter ni a me man say nka ye wadum carpenter for wadum no is an association you register wa ban mu say carpenter you be family aba office no be family akoye adwuma ma wo yes I to fear no afro bi fa fun afro bi sa na ba adwuma ma ejina no de everything no system no
94.1
ba no system ni ho
exactly
it doesn't Messi ni na akwaje diska no a
okwaje no way ukweshia no we no akwaje
so systems no nya adwuma
systems ni nya adwuma nti ye kwaya ni mu ye da bia so na me kana asema I say we interrupt me sana ma de me kana me refi but like I was saying no say ye gusua say ye develop dia say ye mpanimfo etu kwan a omotu kwan omo ne mihyehyɛ a outsiders omo de agu akwan mu a ye nua mo bebre eye adwuma wa brochira enya association bia no odom obi okrokwa oni nkrata eye obi nkrata na waje ode ye adwuma but kwan bi so no eno na make sense Mike ya mama no si a o mama no si anka da bia anka abete de make na se I don't like it when I'm disrupted like that. Misia, can you understand me? Obi nkrata no, and I'm say broni ne system no, eye ni nti no. But so me sika no ba betom ne kra no. Say adwuma no uye ho. Esie kwa na wo ye no. Aban no kwan ofa so te. Now you get my point. Ya go for me bro on ma eye visit ni ade no de call ye. Aman no kra aban ni nim say what say oman ma body say oman mo or ye adwuma gisika de ba fie but enam say oman na hye ne hye yie ni ntino e bia me de amasewa makoji adwoa brago enkrata na me de ye adwuma but enam say oman ni hye ni gu akwan mu no emfa wo say me wia me ho ye adwuma no kra no oman na je ne to enti kan be kan dia be se de empanifo etu kwan ya policies bi wo ho no ma e wa ma no ne atain bia mo pese omode ba no e wo say yetime di hihye egu akwam se yete wo say ye digital sanyo we nyina no sa digital no nyoma no se yete ase na ye ho ni use a I think say ye betumi use ne kwan paso masa mason for ne carpenter for ne ade ya
you see
okay
94.1 FM.
enye se Ghana for mpedifo tu kwan ya de omo mfa be adwuma
okay
but Ghana ni na o de be send sama na ye adwuma be send look at this free
Ezra 94.1
say a system e dey posting kolan but if you will be na obi kotu eska e na to be ope e di Ghana ni no akora na ono to office wo na e wo so ono so hwe say the right thing will be done politician ni wo no obe photocopy so the chunk of our resources are in Zanka ni na no e na nyamanyofo no e nyamanyofo no e coordinating directors no ho ahwa no no omo dia na say them free politicians ne pass obi hu pass ye ne se be yi but obe implement ya Ghana for na be say no
okay and any see nyina yegumi it's what the question is any be yi ni
it ehia that reset no
yeah
94.1
free from one
da be free soro be boa because bibia e koso be free soro ne sane ba fo e sha se free soro ho na because ade bia e koso wo Ghana ha corruption dia wo kai say na coordinate e free soro amanyoni ni so wo de wo ye etade bia e koso wo Ghana bia e free soro kakran ene esane ba because yet your man ya obi e pen ho nyantem chance kitua bi obi abenya bia no e wo say wo tene ka bi tene fa so obi o fili say aso man ne de ne ka eto nya chance kitua bia e wo so wo tene ka tene fa so eti ye research dey I should start from the top to the down
ye twa ho ba
94.1
e ba sisi
tuoni e de do man no
the ono expecting wa wotie me hwe me expecting me amete yi na expecting no ebetia ba musa e de ama I think that ama expectation pa ne say 11 be free ho ama na expect
11 in free
well 11 dey edi sika che o me hwe 11 pa say dey say because me salary ni ano me ko bank me kai the last time I me bank yes
bank to wallet
yes Ti no 11 there
o mo twon pa
twe pa
e say so dey no idea o bank to wallet you be charge one sana ko here
yeah
wow esa o sika ni nyana besa
okay
some mo dey mo du nti
oh na so
ebi be
but my enkodi nkomra
okay
ye he budget ye ni no yare so ho
oh
yare no so ye nka say yare ni mra ne yare nya ba de ya
ene na timpo a
yes e was yes nya banko a de was yes ebi kwa na okran yare ni nya maaye no bi was wa utumi ko doctor maba ye bi pede ma me say bibia ye kama master Jesus Eba
EZRA 94.1 FM.
Doctor Isaac Mensah Atrase. Isaac Mensah do in classmate view. No or take chemistry rough.
Oh, okay.
Doctor Kwaba.
Yeah, me ne.
Bibia bako dia.
Radio adum e wan de na mo so e.
Ya me adum. Master Jesus makache te sen.
Boko.
Ewi adwuma fo na sefo no ho.
Gidi pa.
Bibia koso kama.
Yesum pa ntino. Ene o program e Croatia. Ghana te sen.
Ghana te sen.
Sanity.
Ti ayare fo no so mo te sen.
Ekoyi pa.
Bibia ko kama dia.
Pa se o abo front e no. Ti enu bi na ye de ato wo soro he.
Good. Na no na maami bi ka se ono de ama na agye matum pa no.
Okay.
Stroke no.
Sure.
Se ne wate ate amanfo aka but de ama ono na agye matum pa stroke no.
No correct.
O se nyamu anka ne sister pani
sa
kokoi. Stroke do bia na agya ni panama busuanfo se de adon de especially ma no. O hwa na nye ya no agya busuanfo. Ma fa be ma no nko. De adon de be sia na asie.
Sanity.
Mu secret ni sai.
Secret ni nyina no ye chia etiefo ene adofo a mo hwe mutie ewo eye EZRA TV ana programming so nyame asomdwe nkan Dr. Isaac Mensah do be na frey 3 days Dr. 3 days no original one na ye no wodi nkomo no ntino na nyame adom ye hye we de na wonso no wodi bia to nkotodwem na wodi wani a kire ba bia oba enko eso banum adura afi mienu miensa na oda so enum aduru no cause enne onum aduru no na aduru na to da bia na ekwa tia wangasa oni pedua no eno nti ena emre ni homa aduru no bebre eno nti eso de wani kire ba bia ye hwehwem ye secret ni ye the blood group na e treat yare
okay
blood group et say wa filling station fuel no edoso ye wo diesel na ye wo petrol ho se wo use diesel car na okoto petrol guma ospa ka beje so ho ebe ko kakra edu ba bia na ejina di asambeba etumi kura agbo o engine no enti sa na ni pedua nso te tete no na bra group ni ye na no omunimpa no mo de adwuma enti papa no betumi aye aduane oso meme de mepe abete wonso de mamenya akole ma wo na ebushia kro na wo blood group edifa wona wo yere na motifie aduane amudi na bia ope na ntwenam bebre se wo ye bia akutia wo obeko etiamu baako na wonso a wo ye o no eboa wo nti aduane ye di wo fie no ene nnura ye nom no ye obia ne bra group a eboa no ene de emoa no example obi bedi beans ni yemu framanko a we inframa sa sabio fa cheme obi nso bedi beans no ne nam ho obi di anka o se me pese me yemu hwi odi anka ne yemu tim obi nso ATM onom anka na ne yemu yeden eda ho obi kura nom anka obenya osa onom to aso bia 3 days onom anka to aso obenya osa by the end of the that month no obe check no wenya osa sisi ana se typhoid enti enuane ye di no enwa na me ya hoden jina bro ni see you are what you eat enti we na ama Master Jesus Christ ye sua hu se ye fa ahaban bi anase eduro bi ti se 20 ni a 20 ni e contain calcium zinc zinc no so emo bi o blood group o pa cho na me kire no enti ese obi ba na se bia me honam ye me ya sciatica me dompe me sisi me ya wanum aduro saa enko ese me hu se zinc ne mo da me ko fa kaka pimpin ema do blood group o no
okay
enti ye no ba ye ho a obi o se my BTM ewo ejoso aha wo de wani kire bu mfa kwan no so a wo kɔ gaben no o yo bi an position me kan bi obi abehu no na ono mpodi o say samre wo ha ko ba be kasa stroke eche ne wife pa na no edin de ni chinye ye fi do say doctors ne mre fi mehwe no onyame adom ko ne de ba Master Jesus Clinic ye hwe no within 3 weeks na ono de sabiu na no kra no uso na no se no wabai na wo de aduane ayden ama no fast na no edin ye man drew within 3 weeks no maame no ono aye ebo ne bra do na ne sorry no mu na edin but ono aye nbi obekọ na ono aye ni stew ye ne neoma within 6 weeks which is 1 month 2 weeks na maame na sorry na mo typhoid ayobi e wo kira eye ejoso wana wo de we ne kire eye do na so kwan so onwe e kwan no so eno so typhoid ye na no koda konfa no chi yanka se konfa no chi ha kode no koto condemn onyame nti oba ye man do typhoid na ye moa aka ho so no enti na make us blood group ho hia se mo ye nipa mienu o se namfo bia mutumi hia nipa miensa mo no monsa mo teki bia alcohol mo teki a do ye bi no enam se protein kwa na wona system no nti o teki alcohol na enha no bebri se wa we o na o de na vitamin C ba jo tie me blood group ye nwotwe ye we A positive and negative, B positive and negative, O positive and negative, and AB. Nti ebia ne de aboa no ene de amoa no so fa o na omna according to World Health Organization omo chese omo do so nti na obi so obi as blood group e do calculate as me o enso na ebia na wonye o nti na fie bi o ma me nya diabetes a che me ka masaman eye nsawo mu kwan no so wo ma bi no nyina tutu kuro bit no obo wa fam yesi tuberculosis e druba bi yesi wenye yarebon e bi e kom na diabetes type B type 2 no e bushia de no necessary no na wenya amoa no e foro no sa na ade a na edi maame ni nyina ye aduane a na ne kunu oda e wo fie ho because no ba akoma nti papa ne pe pork ne meat no no opepa pa jo na me che no maame ne blood group ni B positive na say ono no on say wo de o test obi a ana malaria kra yaw na okona ye test wa wo de ade ewo ho a ye wo moje obi ho ha wo de ade wo na ne moje no tusen bi so wo de ade wo na ade se wo miansa e moja na start se ba enu nti na me kire etiefuo se wo pese o chronic yare se ye stroke yare wo da fom tim o pese wo de wani kire ba bia within a while na say emerite wo mi ho beto wa eduro baji wa mpanifo sa atrama enye ye do otu eduro so 6 months 1 year da bi eduro no ekwa kone no ma na eku atia wo akwese bia obi a always bia fufu udi fufu to aso be na nsa na afono kwamo do panzo na wontumi ni me pa cho eno sa na eduro no so etie ene ti bomodin se odu eni be kire Master Jesus Eba Clinic aye wo ama saman utie mi wo eye enkran ne mpotemu ama saman Stadium Junction ehwa na ye wo ene kumase ba bibia da wo free se ye bono se ye north se eye hemfa bomodin bre kumase ebuakwa obedu keti a ebuakwa na nka we ka ofa ne nyina do baba ebuakwa ha o frɛ number ya 0530 82 66 10 0530 82 66 10 and 0554 931 539 0554 931 539 and 0240 91 4443 0240 91 4443 me patcho say unnim blood group a ko check blood group wura clinic anase ba bia even pharmacy kro metumi ayeden a check ama ya check ya ne bonye den uhu a goggle kro betumi akwakobo say bia aduane be na medi abo ame wo de famu bi wo ye o a o ne ye ka mo asama ofuo no ade bia nkyene wom emoa ade bia a tasty salty emu ye nkyene bia emwa obi oye o enso me ka say obi ye o ahomache no nom ensa obi ye o na duane pa bia kalombo meku ya ne agbelime akpele na odi aduane bia eye salty emwa we ye o we wa vitamin C ye umoja nkoa umoja no eye nchene ewu dada ehia protein enuane ye protein na ehia wa we una aboa na ne na balance no
bo makachi wono no mohwemu no so
sa ntie oba pe wotena ase a ye di kan check obra group na ye hu kwan ye do be fa so enti na yare akase te se hepatitis B omo de ba ABC omo de ba pa na ko amanfo frei wasa kropon ahemfo empenifu atitiru ma mesre omo di adanse Kumasi branch kra de ye enche nanso adaje ni poso enti mesese wo yare atena so mepe chronic yare a eni yare kwanko wa treat enko oba na so obe so hwe ye check obra group no na se hu se eduru na wo nom no na wo nom yare gu yare no so na mu ye direct ni hu se eduru na de mo de haba ne de doso mitumi che haba bebre ye ko ye mse wo we eni yare aya cassava banchi nunkum mu no ahomachi bia bosu guso bosu na tefra na posa mfansu bia mfra wo de fa so wani na wo de eye drop asoso ama wani na ya ate no ete no ete se koko se de fifiri obi kom efifiri se de obi ton sa na ese bebi abebeto bia ne pie mu enti ba bia efin no ebenya intini bia na pie ebi tumi pie obi mfe sa na pie wani no eba beda so na ese eyete enti yemo waduru na amama no eyi no na eno a clear off so the banchi nku mu na wo de ye na so de soso ahomache wo de soso acha be na wo tubon se wani na ye okuzuguzo no na eren clear na mu metene de wo mu de abra ya so ye obi enenu hu hwe emfa no wo mfie wo de wani kire eye kwan so antonso abo so kwan ya so tafo kwan so mind be on 90 years nani oba ne de na ese nde oteka mu hu meduru ana ya de ne bre yen sabe so tumi ka se menua me ne me yere kura hia be 3 years ni me ne me yin hia biem nyaminti ya check in the bra group ehun se san oye for no so mo very strong mo ye fit bra group na be mo hu se we kura obenyina cha na se sabe o wan hwe wadidi emu ya wunyine nche bra group mesere se de ye kan nyina mu no fo ni kire Master Jesus Eba Clinic na oba ye wo massage machines bebre ye therapy chasi sisi ni pedua no ye de habane nubna ene eye wo nya fidie ne ye de etwetwetwon pacho tie me ye wo habane nubra bi ti se fibroid da wo yim ye de ma wana anane no enko eme enko nkotwetwa wo ngoye operation we de we ni kire wo se bi wo HIV AIDS for ni kire Master Jesus Clinic hepatitis B bra emojemu ya re biete to bi bem prostate emu hye no ene de wo de Johnson hye ho ajai emfa Johnson hye ho e de wo na se wayase e ba sa blood and be kase sa na tie bomodin bra Master Jesus Clinic wa nsu gugugugu fo ne kire ye ho na mo frɛ kwanko e ho no ye frɛ ebedianko rada bedianko ma no mo frɛ ebedianko doctor no ono ani ba ma bi teto ne ade eye mogem yare na house a bra na oba ye wonu ma ye kirew eni hudubna ye de mawa eni umoja no befa se eduro no te sen na se eni umoja no mfa obenuma dedem na asan bubu ti fo ni kire Master Jesus
Eba no fa hene sisu bio na
ashe no ewo amasaman enkran amasaman stadium junction main station wana kwan na dasoro wana wo de eni kire ho a oba eye electricity company ho na obenya ye sanso na ebua kwa Kumasi ebua kwa ba bia wo bia no bomoden bra Kumasi obesi ebua kwa ofisuan ne ebrekum na eba de ne obesi wo ye kwan no so wa
ana ofisi hwe ho na eba
ende ye kwan no so wa run about a wo si ya pe bomoden friend number si 0530 82 66 10 ana say 0530
0530
82 66 10 and 0554 931 539 0554 931 539 and 0240 91 4443 0240 91 4443 Epacho me wase
Tabusia wo body anu akọ blood group ne hia pa yare bia obia no Dr. Master Jesus Eba Clinic e wo buakwa Kumasi ya santimantem a 05308
82 66 10 yes
Fred Doctor na fi edere ni nkomo Finance Minister Atnasi na So you are following someone ready pa yenko na yenko fa the budget hearing for 2025.
Galamsey for the longest time until I became a Galamsey.
Honorable members, item 7, statements. The budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2025. Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, on the authority of His Excellency the President, President John Dramani Mahama, and pursuant to Article 179 of the Constitution and the other paper and the standing orders of the House, Order 1952, and today's order paper, item 7. Mr. Speaker, I present to you the budget statement and economic policy of government for the year ending 31st December 2025. Right Honorable Speaker, today marks a moment of great significance, and I have the singular honor to stand before this House to present, on behalf of His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, following his extraordinary mandate, the maiden budget of his new administration. Mr. Speaker, I'm deeply grateful to His Excellency the President for entrusting me with this responsibility. Respectfully, Mr. Speaker, I also submit to this House the following statutory report as required by law. The 2024 annual report on the Petroleum Funds, in line with Section 48 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815, as amended, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also submit the 2024 Energy Sector Levies Report in accordance with Section 6 of the Energy Sector Levies Act 2015, Act 899. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the 2024 Annual Report on the collection and utilization of the African Import Union Levy, in line with Section 7 of the African Union Import Levy Act 2017, Act 952. Right Honorable Speaker, with this budget, I will also be seeking a review of the following act to support the policies of government aimed at stabilizing the economy and promoting inclusive growth. The first will be an amendment to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815. The second will be the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund Act 870. And the second will be an amendment to the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act 2018, Act 978. The Speaker, I will also be seeking amendment to the Energy Sector Levies Act 2015, Act 899. I will be seeking amendment to the Ghana Cocoa Board Act, Act 1984, the PNDC Law 81, as amended. The Speaker, that's not all. I will also be seeking amendment to the Earmark Funds Capping and Realignment Act 2017, Act 947, the Ghana Procurement Authority Act 2003, Act 663, as amended in Act 914. Speaker, I will be seeking amendment to the Ghana Education Trust Fund Act 2000, Act 581. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I will also be seeking amendment to the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018, Act 982, and incorporating into a comprehensive public financial management act. Mr. Speaker, I forgot to add that I will also be seeking amendment to the Revenue Administration Act 2016, Act 915. So, Speaker, we remain committed to the pursuit of our 24-hour economic policy of stimulating economic growth and job creation. Right, Honourable Speaker, this policy will contribute to addressing Ghana's structural economic challenge by creating an integrated, efficient, and increasingly export-driven industrial economy that fulfills the utilization of our national resources, capital, and labor power. Right, Honourable Speaker, will be presenting the 24-hour economy policy to Parliament in due course. In this respect, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Act, the Ghana Investment Promotion Act, and other enabling legislations will be reviewed accordingly. Mr. Speaker, as part of the effort to stabilize our city through foreign exchange and gold reserve accumulation, I will also submit a bill to provide a legal framework for the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board for the consideration. Leader briefly, and now, Mr. Speaker, as Minister responsible of Finance. Right. Honourable Speaker, the invaluable experience I gained in this chamber has shaped my perspective, sharpened my focus, and prepared me for the task at hand. I fully commit to supporting His Excellency the President to fix the economy of Ghana. I take this opportunity to extend my profound gratitude to the good people of Ejuma Kwenyanesiam, my constituents, and to you, Mr. Speaker, and members of this House across the aisle for your unwavering support throughout my years in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, this esteemed House is a sanctuary of rigorous debate, principled cooperation, and at times constructive disagreement, all in the pursuit of greater good of our beloved country. I look forward to working with you, Right Honourable Speaker, and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to reset the Ghana's economy through sound policy and structural reforms that will propel our country forward. Mr. Speaker, there comes a time in a nation's history when fundamental challenges must be confronted, difficult choices must be made, and a new course must be set for the future. For Ghana, the defining moment is now. Mr. Speaker, President John Dramani Mahama made a commitment to reset Ghana for jobs, accountability, prosperity, The Speaker, as captured in the NDC manifesto, in this regard, the theme of our budget is resetting the economy for Ghana we want. Right, Honorable Speaker, the democratic principles we tirelessly fought for are being held. Our democracy has been consolidated with yet another peaceful transition of power. That notwithstanding, our youth face an uncertain future with growing unemployment and hopelessness. This suggests that the dividends of democracy, such as economic prosperity and social justice, remains elusive. The Speaker, the choice before us as a country are clear. We can either continue on a path of self-destruction by not confronting the problems, or we can embark on a journey of fundamental reforms and transformation, one that resets our economic model, redefines our priorities, honors our social contract, and provides opportunity for all. The Speaker, luckily, President Mahama has chosen the path of reform and transformation. He will fix the economy. He will restore hope and lead us to build a Ghana we want together. Right, Honorable Speaker, this budget was preceded by the National Economic Dialogue on the theme Resetting Ghana, Building the Economy We Want Together, on the 3rd and the 4th of March 2025. Through this consensus-building dialogue, the people demanded a decisive action, real solution to the severe challenges that plagued us as a country. Mr. Speaker, the 2025 budget is a culmination of the true aspirations, felt needs, genuine desires of the people of Ghana, expressed through the engagement with diverse stakeholders. As part of our broad consultation also ahead of the budget, we recently engaged traders at major trading centers, including the Mokola market, to listen to their concerns, gauge their expectations, and elicit their input. So, Speaker, the extensive consultation revealed that the overriding concern among Ghanaian traders and business community remains price and exchange rate stability. Apart from eroding their working capital, exchange rate volatilities makes effective business planning impossible and increase the cost of doing business. This budget outlines far-reaching measures which will be implemented in close collaboration with the Central Bank, the Bank of Ghana, to effectively and efficiently manage the exchange rate and inflation. Mr. Speaker, we also engage the youth of Ghana in a dialogue on social media as part of our new budget consultation. Mr. Speaker, during my engagement with the youth, it was revealed that 321 pharmacists who were employed since June 2023 have not received their salaries. We will take urgent steps to remedy this situation immediately. Right, Honorable Speaker, this conversation was an eye-opening experience, one that strengthened my belief that the voices of the youth matter in designing policies that directly and indirectly impact their lives and future. So, Speaker, in the year 2016, I came to this chamber on behalf of the then Minister of Finance, Act 912, to deploy a robust public financial management system. Even though, Mr. Speaker, the Public Financial Management Act remains one of the best in the world, its poor implementation has rendered our public financial management systems weak, allowing for abuse and costly infraction. So, Speaker, President Mahama's government is committed to the full implementation of contracting and public procurement to budgetary provisions in the medium-term expenditure framework and seek parliamentary approval for all multi-year commitments as required by law. Mr. Speaker, we will comply with the public procurement process and link them to approved budget. We will also respect the limits of the appropriations as approved by Parliament. We will rationalize the management of the compensation of employees, including conducting headcount across the country. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention or my focus to the state of the Ghanaian economy as at 31st December 2025. Right, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I now focus my attention on the state of the Ghanaian economy as at 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, hands on heart, we inherited an economy in deep crisis. Mr. Speaker, an economy hard hit with debt and beset by other fiscal challenges, such as large accumulation of MDRS, energy sector, shortfalls, and financial sector payments. Mr. Speaker, weak commitment control and reckless public spending have reversed the progress made in fiscal consolidation, even under the IMF program that commenced in the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the gains made under the IMF-supported program that was to achieve through the painful sacrifice of domestic bondholders, external creditors, and taxpayers, the economy remains in distress. Right, Honorable Speaker, key performance indicators to be assessed by the IMF staff in the upcoming fourth review of the program, scheduled for April 2025, such as the primary balance on commitment basis, inflation, social protection, and others, as at end 2024, are likely missed. Right, Honorable Speaker. In addition, all structural benchmarks due by end December 2024 are also missed. So, Speaker, inflation worsened in the year 2024 from 23.2% in the year 2023 to 23.8% in 2024. So, Speaker, the 2024 end period inflation also exceeded the budget target of 15% by 8.8 percentage points and the IMF central target of 18% by 5.8 percentage points. Unfortunately, this has triggered a discussion with IMF under the monetary policy consultation clause. Right, Honorable Speaker, the primary balance on commitment basis worsened from a deficit of 0.2% of GDP in the year 2023 to a deficit of 3.9% in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, the primary balance on commitment basis target for 2024 was a surplus of 0.5% of GDP. Sadly, the previous government recorded a deficit of 3.9 percentage point of GDP. This presents a slippage of a whopping 4.4 percentage points. Right, Honorable Speaker. At the end of December 2024, total central government arrests amounted to 67.5 billion Ghana cedis, representing 5.2% of GDP. The Speaker, with the road sector recording an arrest of 21 billion Ghana cedis. The Speaker, when I assumed office on the 23rd of January 2025, my office was inundated with requests for payment from many contractors and suppliers. To ascertain the total arrests and outstanding payment for all MDAs, the Ministry of Finance decided to formally request all MDAs on the 28th of January 2028 to submit information on all arrests and outstanding claims for validation. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Finance held a special hearing with the MDAs to validate the arrests that were submitted for payment. The response from the MDAs and the validation revealed that a staggering amount of 67.5 billion Ghana cedis is owed to government contractors and suppliers. Mr. Speaker, this consists of MDA's outstanding interim payment of invoices worth 49.2 billion and bank transfer advice at the Controller Accountant General worth 18.3 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this 67 billion excludes 1.73 billion US dollars owed to independent power producers. This 67 billion also excludes 68 billion Ghana cedis owned by Electricity Company of Ghana to contractors. Mr. Speaker, this 67 billion US dollars also exclude the 32 billion owned by the Ghana Cocoa Board to contractors. And Mr. Speaker, this 67.5 billion also excludes the 5.75 billion owned by the Ghana Road Fund to various contractors. Right, Honorable Speaker, the Bank of Ghana is also seeking an amount of 53 billion Ghana cedis as bailout to be able to address their negative equity challenge that they face. Mr. Speaker, as part of the measures to address these mounting accumulated arrests, we have commissioned an audit of these arrest payments and guarantee value for money before a penny will be paid. Mr. Speaker, before a penny will be paid, we'll commit to do that arrest. Right, Honorable Speaker, in addition to the 67.5 billion cedis in arrests, the validation process also revealed that MDAs have awarded contract to the tune of a minimum 194 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount represents 16.5% of GDP as at the end of 2024, with the road sector again alone accounting for 100 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, most of these contractors and most of these contracts were awarded without commencement certificate and authorization. Mr. Speaker, this is in blatant violation of the Public Financial Management Act, Act 921. Right, Honorable Speaker, let me now update you on our debt service obligations. Mr. Speaker, apart from the huge arrests and commitment, our fiscal situation is further complicated by huge bullet debt service and constrained fiscal financing options. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the government option to finance the budget is limited to only Treasury bill market following the debt restructuring program. Moreover, the forthcoming debt service of both domestic and Eurobond debt obligation will have profound implications for fiscal sustainability and balance of payment. Right, Honorable Speaker, domestic debt service alone, programmed for the next 4 years, is 150.3 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, simply put, the interest and principal payment that will be due for payment beginning now for the next 4 years is 150.3 billion Ghana cedis. This represents 11.6% of GDP in domestic debt service obligation alone. The Speaker, of this 150 billion US Ghana cedis, 73.3% of this 150 billion Ghana cedis is due for payment in the year 2027 and 2028. Right, Honorable Speaker, 2027 alone, the domestic debt service that will be falling due will be 57.6 billion, and 2028 will be made to call upon to pay 52.5 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, the debt service obligation of 2027 and 2028 are major harms. These harms are cancerous and pose significant risks to the economy of Ghana. But, Mr. Speaker, touch wood, we shall fix it. We shall fix it. Mr. Speaker, our debt service obligation of this financial year is equally burdensome with significant harms. February, we were called upon to pay 9.9 billion. July, we'll be paying 6.2 billion. And August, we'll be paying 10.1 billion, all this year. Right, Honorable Speaker, the fiscal challenges are further compounded by the significant short-term Treasury bill that we also inherited. So, Speaker, these obligations, totaling about 111.1 billion Ghana cedis, requires rollover week in, week out, placing additional pressure on cash flows and liquidity requirements. Mr. Speaker, beyond the domestic maturities, Ghana faces significant external debt service obligations for the next 4 years. The next 4 years will be made to call upon to pay 8.7 billion US dollars, representing 10.9% of GDP, with heavy concentration again in the year 2027 and 2028. Again, Mr. Speaker, 55% of this external debt service will be due in the year 2027 and 2028. Right, Honorable Speaker, in the year 2027, will be made to pay $2.5 billion US, and 2028 will have to again pay $2.4 billion US. Right, Honorable Speaker, it seems the debt restructuring undertaken by the previous administration was designed to make 2027 and 2028 debt repayment heavy, sadly. So, Speaker, I don't know how come we sat and allowed that design to happen. So, Speaker, that is cancerous. But I can assure you, we will fix it. Mr. Speaker, in spite of all this upcoming domestic and external debt service obligation, no buffers were built to cushion this unprecedented debt service burden. Mr. Speaker, as of 7 January 2025, the debt service reserve account, the sinking fund in dollar, has a balance of $64,000 US. Mr. Speaker, when we were leaving office, we left behind $319 million US in that same account. Mr. Speaker, the debt service reserve CD account had an amount of 143 million Ghana cedis. Right, Honorable Speaker, when we were leaving office, the balance was 430 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, I now move you to stalled project. Mr. Speaker, due to the bilateral creditors' debt restructuring that is ongoing, undertaken by previous administration, a staggering number of 55 projects have been halted. Mr. Speaker, this leaves a massive amount of $3 billion US in undisbursed loans and about $300 million in outstanding interim payment certificates, IPCs. Some of these projects include the famous Efie Kwanta Hospital, the Kejetia Market Phase 2, the Bolgatanga Boko Pomakrom Road, and the Tema Aflawa Road project. Delayed payment and demobilization from site could result in cost overruns of over $1.1 billion US. Right, Honorable Speaker, the IMF-supported program imposed an annual disbursement ceiling of $250 million for all bilateral loans that are being restructured. This constraint means that it will take a minimum of 12 years to complete all of this stalled program. So, Speaker, unfortunately, as a result of the debt restructuring, all this stalled program, working with the IMF will take a minimum of 12 years if we decide to go business as usual. We'll be engaging in the coming days to resolve this challenge. Speaker, I now take you to the famous energy sector fiscal risk. Mr. Speaker, the increase in energy sector financing shortfall is posing significant risk to the Ghanaian economy. In the year 2024, the Ministry of Finance supported the energy sector with payment of about 20.8 billion Ghana cedis. These resources could have been used for job creation and other development programs, like roads, schools, and hospitals, if the sector inefficiencies were resolved. The Speaker, a recent exercise conducted by the Energy Sector Financing Modeling Team under the Energy Sector Recovery Program, ESRP, revealed that the business-as-usual energy sector financing shortfall has increased significantly to about 35 billion Ghana cedis for the year 2025 alone, even after spending in excess of 20 billion cedis in the year 2024. Right, Honorable Speaker, more importantly, the shortfall for the period 2023 to 2026 has been estimated to be about 140 billion Ghana cedis. The Speaker, this amount is 20 times more than the allocation for goods and service for all MDAs in the year 2025. The Speaker, in addition, the energy sector shortfalls, which relate to current invoices that are largely unpaid legacy arrests due to the independent power producers. So, Speaker, the legacy arrests stood at $1.73 billion US as at end 2024. Right, Honorable Speaker, the cocoa sector, which has long been the backbone of the Ghanaian economy, is sadly on its knees, owing to gross mismanagement. Mr. Speaker, the sector faces declining output and financing challenges, characterized by unsustainable debt, rollover cocoa contract risk, and quasi-fiscal expenditures, including cocoa roads, which, Mr. Speaker, is a non-core function of the Ghana Cocoa Board. Right Honorable Speaker, cocoa production has dropped by nearly 50% over the past 3 years. In the year 2023-2024 crop season, Cocoa Board was unable to supply 330,000 tons of cocoa to meet its contractual obligation. This sharply decline has affected the finances of Ghana Cocoa Board. This undersupply has been rolled over for subsequent years for the new administration to pay. So, Speaker, these 2023 to 2024 forward sales contracts, locked in at lower prices than the current market rates, have resulted in revenue losses of about $840 million for both Ghana Cocoa Board and the impoverished cocoa farmer. Right Honorable Speaker, the rollout cocoa contract has resulted in a loss of $495 million for the year 2025 alone. So, Speaker, these are the risks in relation to the market price differentials and, as a result, costs causing the smuggling that we see with Ghana Cocoa Board. So, Speaker, Cocoa Board outstanding debt amount to 32 billion Ghana cedis, of which 11.92 billion is due to be paid in the year 2025. Outstanding cocoa road contracts reached 21 billion Ghana cedis, approximately $1.3 billion in the year 2024, of which only 4.4 billion has been accounted for in Cocoa Board's finances for the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, the financial sector still struggles even after spending 30.3 billion in the financial sector cleanup exercise by end 2024. This includes 26.9 billion Ghana cedis after spending this amount in the banking sector. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the financial sector is still struggling, and the financial sector will require 10.45 billion Ghana cedis to address the financial sector legacy issues and emerging risk. In addition, Mr. Speaker, an amount of 2.2 billion Ghana cedis is required to fully capitalize the National Investment Bank and the Agricultural Development Bank of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I will also update the House on the fiscal performance for the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal performance in the year 2024 was characterized by improved revenue collection, but with significant expenditure overruns. In addition, large arrests were accumulated over the period. Mr. Speaker, in summary, the provisional data shows the following. 1. Primary balance on commitment basis, the key fiscal anchor of the IMF program, worsened from a deficit of 0.2% of GDP at the end of 2023 to a deficit of 3.9% of GDP at the end of the year 2024. This is 4.4 percentage points worse than the target surplus of 0.5% of GDP. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, on cash basis, Mr. Speaker, the primary balance was a deficit of 1.2% of GDP against a target of 0.6% of GDP, representing a 100% deviation. Mr. Speaker, the overall fiscal balance on commitment basis for 2024 was a deficit of 7.9% of GDP against a target of 4.2% of GDP, while the overall fiscal balance on cash basis was a deficit of 5.2% of GDP against a target of 5.3% of GDP. Total revenue and grant amounted to 186.6 billion Ghana cedis, or 15.9% of GDP, 5.3% above the revised target of 177.2 billion Ghana cedis, or 17.4% of GDP. The performance was mainly driven by higher than programmed oil and gas receipt and higher non-oil tax revenue collection. Total expenditure on commitment basis, including discrepancies, amounted to 279.2 billion, or 23.7% of GDP. This is 27.1% above the budget provisions of the year 2024, Mr. Speaker. The primary balance on commitment basis, including discrepancies, amounted to 232.4 billion or 19.8% of GDP. This is 35.3% above the target of 171.7 billion or 16.8% of GDP. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, all expenditure lines exceeded their respective targets for the period, except for interest payments, goods and service, and other expenditures. Right Honourable Speaker, the discrepancies for the year 2024 being unclassified expenditure was 3.8 billion Ghana cedis as compared to 12.9 billion Ghana cedis in the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, at the end of December 2024, provisional data indicate that gross central government and guaranteed debt was 726.7 billion from 610 billion in 2023. This represents 61.8% of GDP in 2024, compared to 68.7% in the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, it is instructive to note that the debt to GDP ratio and the dollar component of our debt that has come down, that has reduced, is as a result of the 37% haircut on principal of Eurobond debt under the debt restructuring. Mr. Speaker, it is important to know that. Mr. Speaker, Right Honourable Speaker, it is instructive to note that the debt to GDP that has reduced is as a result of the 37% haircut on principal and interest that were given to Eurobond bondholders. So, Speaker, you may recall that the government commenced the debt restructuring program in the year 2022 to restore debt sustainability and economic stability. As of now, the restructuring process is approximately 93% completed. The remaining 7% relate to debt of $2.7 billion owed to commercial creditors. We are committed to completing the remaining debt restructuring as soon as possible. The Speaker, real sector development in the year 2024. Right Honourable Speaker, provisional 2024 GDP statistics published by the Ghana Statistical Service on the 10th of March 2025 shows that overall real GDP growth increased. So, Speaker, at the end of increased to 5.7% in the year 2024. So, Speaker, I take that again. The Speaker, provisional 2024 GDP statistics published by the Ghana Statistical Service on the 10th of March 2025 show that overall GDP growth grew by 5.7% of GDP in the year 2027, compared to the growth rate of 3.1% recorded over the same period. Mr. Speaker, the key driver of this growth was largely coming from gold mine. Mr. Speaker, including Galamsey. Including Galamsey. Mr. Speaker, Galamsey growth cannot be sustainable. Mr. Speaker, non-oil GDP growth. Mr. Speaker, the non-oil GDP grew by 0.6% in the year 2024, compared with the growth rate of 3.6% recorded in 2023. Mr. Speaker, the gross international reserves increased to a stock position of $8.98 billion at the end of 2024 and was enough to cover 4 months of imports, exceeding the target of a floor of 3 months of import cover. At the end of 2024, the currency had depreciated by 19.2% against the US dollars, 17.8% against the British pound, Mr. Speaker, and it had depreciated by 13.7% against the euro. Mr. Speaker, Right Honourable Speaker, it is what it is. The state of our economy is troubling, but we will fix it. Mr. Speaker, touch wood, we will fix it. But Mr. Speaker, it will require some sacrifices, truthfulness, transparency, and discipline. We will take strong measures to confront the situation head-on. Mr. Speaker, the sacrifice must come from all stakeholders, beginning with the government. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President appreciates this and has led the charge by significantly downsizing his government from the Elephant 88 to the Umbrella 60. Mr. Speaker, he has also reduced the number of his government ministries from the Elephant 30 to the Umbrella 23. Mr. Speaker, as part of the contribution to the resetting agenda, organized labor has followed suit by working with government and employers association to agree on a modest 10% increase in base pay and minimum wage for the year 2025. Right Honourable Speaker, on behalf of His Excellency the President, I would like to express my profound gratitude to organized labor and employers. Mr. Speaker, ordinary Ghanaians have also sacrificed by enduring the negative impact of severe currency depreciation since 2022. Hyperinflation, high food inflation, principal and interest haircut, soaring interest rates, among others. Mr. Speaker, it is now time for the people's representative, the members of Parliament, and the judiciary to also follow suit. I would like to call on all other stakeholders, including the business community, faith-based organizations, academia, and civil society, to support this national call. So, Speaker, our immediate task is to reset our nation, to restore good governance, reduce the excruciating suffering of our people, and set our country on a trajectory of economic transformation. So, Speaker, our vision is to build a prosperous and a democratic state, anchored on the principles of freedom and justice, providing equal opportunities for all. So, Speaker, through this vision, we will work together to build the Ghana we want. Right Honourable Speaker, the resetting agenda will be anchored on the following. 1, restoring hope in our democracy, renewing trust in public officials, and helping every Ghanaian attain their full potential. Offering a trusted hand to the vulnerable, particularly women and youth, and creating a new Ghana for coming generations. And finally, stimulating demand by patronizing made-in-Ghana goods under the 24-hour economy. Mr. Speaker, today I came to this chamber with made-in-Ghana bag, signifying, Mr. Speaker, with made-in-Ghana bag, Mr. Speaker, I would like to first present, Mr. Speaker, they don't know that in Ghana we sew suit. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to first present the government's immediate and strong measures to address the current challenges we are confronted with, followed by the medium-term vision, policy objectives, and targets. Right Honourable Speaker, consistent with Section 14 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 911, the fiscal policy objectives of this government is to support the economic transformation agenda to ensure the macroeconomic stability of the country within the macroeconomic and fiscal framework. More specifically, the fiscal policy objective of the government include the following: rationalizing government expenditure and eliminating wasteful expenditures, optimizing domestic revenue mobilization through broadening of tax base, increased non-tax revenue collection, adopting enhanced tax compliance measures, and modernizing the tax administration through digital technology. Mr. Speaker, we will also increase the share of domestic expenditure to spur economic growth and job creation. We'll be reducing public debt to sustainable levels and adopting prudent debt management practice to support debt sustainability. Reducing the fiscal deficit progressively in accordance with the amended Fiscal Responsibility Act to promote fiscal and debt sustainability. And Mr. Speaker, restoring confidence in the Ghana economy. Right Honorable Speaker, our approach will be to foster economic growth, accelerate job creation, reduce inflation, and stabilize the cedi. To achieve this, it is crucial that we establish the macroeconomic stability and ensure debt sustainability. Mr. Speaker, we are confident that by prioritizing these fundamental elements, we can cultivate an environment where individuals can prosper and businesses can thrive in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians through the recent National Economic Dialogue have expressed a clear desire for fiscal deficit and public debt to be reduced through cuts in government spending rather than through only tax measures. We wholeheartedly agree, Mr. Speaker, going forward, we will tailor our expenditure to align with our fiscal realities. After all, whoever pays off their debt gets rich. Mr. Speaker, we are poised to implement a three-pronged approach to achieve our objective, beginning with this budget immediately. First will be to recalibrate the fiscal adjustment, and we believe that by prioritizing spending-led fiscal adjustment can initiate a positive cycle. Fiscal adjustment can initiate a positive cycle in a way that first, it will help lower inflation and curb depreciation of the cedi. Secondly, it will lessen government reliance on borrowing, which in turn will reduce the crowding out of private sector and lower interest rates. Lastly, this approach will ease the strain on monetary policy, allowing the central bank some greater flexibility to reduce monetary policy rates, ultimately resulting in lower bank and lending rates. Mr. Speaker, the second approach will be to deliver a shock therapy. Mr. Speaker, we are implementing a form of shock therapy to the economy by making significant spending cuts this year, thereby reducing the government financing needs and front-loading fiscal adjustment. This is the down payment for our policy credibility and creditworthiness. Right Honorable Speaker, our third approach will be to restore fiscal responsibility. By moving forward, we will enhance public financial management by empowering ministers to effectively manage their budget on their own, ensuring strict compliance with the commencement certificate. Mr. Speaker, we'll be passing and enforcing a revised Fiscal Responsibility Act. And finally, we will enforce the sanction regime for non-compliance of the Public Financial Management Act. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of the overarching macroeconomic objectives, the following macroeconomic targets have been set for the year 2025. Overall real GDP growth of at least 4% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, not less non-oil real GDP growth of at least 4.8% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, end period inflation rate of 11.9%. Mr. Speaker, primary balance on commitment basis of a surplus of 1.5% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, gross international reserves, including oil funds and encumbered assets, to cover not more than a minimum of 3 months of import. Mr. Speaker, to address inflation, government will implement a number of measures to complement the Bank of Ghana and monetary authorities. Mr. Speaker, The measures to stabilize the exchange rate include the following. We will be establishing the Ghana Gold Board to enhance the generation of accumulation of forex to support the stability of the Ghana cedi. The Bank of Ghana will continue to implement its FX forward auction to support the stability of the Ghana cedi. Government strong fiscal consolidation through the reduction in public sector spending and the fiscal deficit will reduce the pressure on the exchange rate. Mr. Speaker, our import substitution drive under the 24-hour economy involving domestic production of key products originally imported will reduce import and related FX requirements, boding well for FX stability. Right Honourable Speaker, we are addressing the inflation problems through a number of measures, including the following. First, specific interventions, including the Agriculture for Economic Transformational Agenda, is expected to increase food production and reduce food inflation. Government will implement policies that target items with large weight in the CPI basket, such as transportation and utility, to reduce their prices. Mr. Speaker, our aggressive fiscal consolidation drive aimed at reducing the fiscal deficit and borrowing will contribute significantly to reducing inflationary pressures. Right Honourable Speaker, our strategy to improve exchange rate stability will reduce imported inflation and fuel prices. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana will maintain an appropriate monetary policy stance and use its liquidity management interventions to support the disinflation process. Right Honourable Speaker, to achieve our expenditure-led fiscal consolidation objectives, we will implement the following measures. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to our expenditure measures. Mr. Speaker, the following expenditure measures will be implemented in 2025 and the medium term to support fiscal consolidation agenda. First, we will conduct a comprehensive audit to validate the quantum of arrests and commitment as at 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker, the mandatory use of blanket purchase order to capture multi-year commitment contracts in line with our medium-term expenditure ceilings will be implemented. We will amend the Public Procurement Act to provide for an independent value for money office to scrutinize government procurement. Mr. Speaker, we will also work with Parliament to amend the Public Procurement Act to make commencement certificate and budgetary provision a prerequisite for all procurement that will be paid by the central government. Mr. Speaker, we will fully integrate GANEPS and GIFMIS to ensure that only MDA's projects and purchase orders that have approved budget and allotment can obtain procurement approvals. Mr. Speaker, we will operationalize the compliance desks at the Ministry of Finance to monitor reports on commitment and arrest accumulation. Mr. Speaker, aside that, we will publish a PFM league table for compliance purposes. We will strictly enforce sanctions under the sections 96 to 98 of the Public Financial Management Act for breaches of the PFM Act, specifically those that relate to arrest accumulation and commitment control. Right Honourable Speaker, we will cut waste and we will cut it very deep. Mr. Speaker, in this regard, we have selected expenditure items including the Ghana Cares, the U-Start, One District, One Factory for complete elimination. Mr. Speaker, we will reassign the functions of development authorities such as Coastal Development Authority, the Northern Development Authority, the Middle Belt Development Authority to the district assemblies and do away with the development authorities. So, Speaker, we will amend the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to allocate all ABFA resources for infrastructure use, not for goods and services, but for infrastructure use. The Speaker, the National Health Insurance will receive full allocation under the earmark funds capping and realignment act. So, Speaker, the Road Fund will receive full allocation under the earmark fund and capping and realignment act. The Speaker, JNPC share of net carried and participating interest from 30, we will reduce the GMPC share of net carried and participating interest from 30% to 15%, and fully restore transfers to GMPC under the earmark fund and capping act. Right, Honorable Speaker, we'll be amending the Mineral Income and Investment Fund Act to ensure that 80% of the royalties originally maintained by MIF is transferred to the Consolidated Fund for Infrastructure Development. Right, Honorable Speaker, we will strengthen social protection through the implementation of new interventions such as the no academic fee policy for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions under the No Fee Stress Initiative. The Speaker, it also includes the free tertiary education for persons with disability, free primary health care, the Ghana Medical Trust Care, otherwise known as Mahama Care, and free sanitary pads for schoolgirls. Mr. Speaker, to address the energy sector challenges, including reducing the quantum of large energy sector shortfalls, the following energy sector recovery program interventions will be implemented this year. First, Mr. Speaker, ECG and NEDCO will implement a number of measures, including metering and implementation of private sector participation. Mr. Speaker, we will also implement the liquid fuel to gas swap through an increase in end gas supply from 60 mmSC per day to 100 mmSC to take advantage of cheaper gas prices and others. Mr. Speaker, we will complete the IPP capacity renegotiation to generate some savings through negotiated lower fixed capacity charges and variable O&M charges. Mr. Speaker, as agreed with the IMF by the previous administration, we will implement the following ESRP measures to achieve the structural benchmark of the IMF program. Mr. Speaker, PURC will continue to implement the quarterly tariff adjustment to reflect changes in inflation, exchange rate, and generation mix. Mr. Speaker, PURC will also undertake a major tariff adjustment which will be due in fourth quarter of 2025 to reflect capacity charges, additional liquid fuel usage, and additional CAPEX. The weighted average cost of gas will be increased from the current $7.80 per MMBTU to $8.45 to reflect the increased prices of natural gas as well as the changes in the supply mix. So, Speaker, the subsidy on weighted average cost of gas granted to some ceramic companies through the discounted industrial development tariff will be reversed. So, Speaker, I now take you to the revenue measures. Mr. Speaker, in proposing some revenue measures to achieve the 2025 fiscal target for your consideration, I'll first take you to the IMF requirement. Mr. Speaker, this measure is inconsistent with our commitment under the IMF-supported program to observe a non-oil tax revenue effort of 0.6% point of GDP annually as part of the measures to improve domestic revenue mobilization and achieve our debt sustainability target over the medium term. Right, Honorable Speaker, despite our commitment to increase the non-oil tax revenue by 0.6%, we have programmed the following nuisance taxes for removal in line with our manifesto promise. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winning from lottery, otherwise known as the betting tax. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, of 1%. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on betting. We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, of 1%. We will abolish the emission levy, otherwise as in Wusie tax. We will abolish the VAT on motor vehicle insurance policy. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 1.5% withholding tax on unprocessed gold by small-scale miners. Mr. Speaker, the removal of these taxes will ease the burden on households and improve their disposable income. Right, Honorable Speaker, the removal of these taxes will ease the burden on households and improve their disposable incomes. In addition, it will support business growth and improve tax compliance. Mr. Speaker, Right, Honorable Speaker, the tax refund account has been abused in recent years. In the last 8 years, a study revealed that 29.1 billion Ghana cedis had accrued to the tax refund account, with only 12.5 billion Ghana cedis, representing 43% of the total accrued amount, being used for tax refund purposes. Mr. Speaker, the study also revealed that 16.6 billion Ghana cedis, representing 57% of the total amount accumulated in the tax refund account, was misapplied. Mr. Speaker, which is a total violation of the Revenue Administration Act, Act 915, and the Public Financial Management Act. Instructively, Mr. Speaker, there were virtually no tax refund arrests over the period. Mr. Speaker, and therefore, we are reducing the current tax refund ceiling by 2 percentage points from 6% to 4% of total revenue, as defined in Section 69 of the Revenue Administration Act, Act 915. Mr. Speaker, by reducing the ceiling on the tax refund from 6% to 4%, Right, Honorable Speaker, we have saved the taxpayer 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount is enough to close the revenue shortfalls from the removal of the e-levy and the betting levy. So, Speaker, the e-levy would have accrued 1.9 billion Ghana cedis, and the betting tax would have accrued 180 million. The two put together is just above 2 billion Ghana cedis. By reducing the tax refund account from 6 to 4, it is enough to remove this tax, and the savings will be provided to take care of social interventions. Mr. Speaker, already we have saved 3.8 billion cedis for 2025 alone from one source, and this is enough to close the gap from the taxes we have removed today. Mr. Speaker, to address the concerns from well-meaning Ghanaians on how we are going to close the revenue shortfalls as a result of the removal of the selected taxes, the answer is that we have stopped the bleeding. We have stopped the bleeding. Mr. Speaker, accordingly, with this budget, we will amend the Revenue Administration Act 2016, Act 915. This measure will improve the tax revenue net of tax refund by 2%, representing 0.3% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, in line with government policy, the 2025 minimum wage, recently negotiated with the National Tripartite Committee, will be zero-rated. This is consistent with our resolve to protect the poor and the vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, again, without increasing the levy, we will also review the Energy Sector Levies Act to consolidate the energy debt recovery, the Energy Sector Recovery Levy, and the Sanitation and Pollution Levy into one levy and use the proceeds to cater for energy sector shortfalls and service the inherited debt service obligation. Mr. Speaker, the reset has just begun. Right, Honorable Speaker, the rest of the energy sector levies, including the road fund levy, energy fund levy, price stabilization and recovery levy, public lighting levy, and national electrification levy will remain to support the achievement of their intended objectives. Right, Honorable Speaker, Ghana has not sufficiently capitalized on the benefits of its extractive sector to generate revenue to support development and diversification. We have failed to leverage our natural wealth by capturing its rent and channeling it towards productive infrastructure and human capital. Natural resource rent, which is the difference between the revenue of a commodity and the average cost of producing that commodity, is about 14% of GDP in the case of Ghana. However, Mr. Speaker, revenue from extractive industry is around 1.5% of GDP only. This is because, as a country, we have failed to fully capture the economic rent of our natural resources. Mr. Speaker, whereas global gold prices have seen some significant increase in recent times, Ghana has not been able to take full advantage of the development. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker, we are proposing to increase the growth and sustainability levy from 1% on gross production of mining companies to 3% to enable the nation to have its fair share of the windfall. Mr. Speaker, we also propose to extend the sunset clause to 2028. Mr. Speaker, we also propose to extend the sunset clause of the special import levy to 2028. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians and this Honorable House will recall that road tolls on public roads were zero rated in the year 2022. Demand for construction and improvement of road infrastructure continues to increase, even as substantial arrests and claims in the road sector remains. Right, Honorable Speaker, while the annual average collection from road tolls have not been significant compared to its potential, the existing zero-rated policy for road tolls has increased the situation and dimmed the prospect of raising enough revenue from tolls to road construction and maintenance. Accordingly, government will work with the stakeholders, including the private sector, to roll out a technology-driven solution to reintroduce road tolls this year as part of the big push. Right, Honorable Speaker, we will also strengthen the legal and regulatory regime for non-tax revenue and enforce the framework to improve service delivery. This will be achieved through the introduction of an overarching non-tax revenue legislation, amendment of existing relevant laws, and the development of a national non-tax revenue strategy and policy. Mr. Speaker, as part of the reforms to improve other non-tax revenue streams, government will explore the operationalization of a regulatory framework for collection, management, and reporting of property rates consistent with our medium-term revenue strategy 2024 to 2027 and the Local Government Act. Mr. Speaker, we believe that the local authorities must be given the opportunity to collect their own property rates. Mr. Speaker, the current compliance rate for SMEs and personal income tax is below 30%, which is extremely low. Government will embark on an aggressive and sustained tax education campaign in the next 2 to 3 years to ensure improved compliance and tax revenue mobilization. We will also institute a quarterly dialogue on tax issues among the Ghana Revenue Authority, Ministry of Finance, and the business community to ensure that issues affecting businesses are addressed promptly. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to VAT reforms. Right, Honorable Speaker, we commit to the people of Ghana and this House, the business community, that we will undertake a comprehensive value-added tax reform this year. Mr. Speaker, with the aim to review the current distortions and cascading structure of the value-added tax regime. Ghana's effective rate, VAT rate is about 22%. This is obviously because the 2.5% Get Fund levy, the National Health Insurance levy of 2.5%, and the COVID levy are well added to the base for a final determination of what is due for VAT purposes. Mr. Speaker, aside the high VAT rate, businesses are not permitted by law to claim their input VAT for NHIL, Get Fund, and COVID levy, compounding the burden on households. Right, Honourable Speaker, our VAT regime has been distorted and rendered inefficient. It combines both VAT and sales tax principles with a flat rate, standard rate, and levies. We have requested for technical assistance from the Fiscal Affairs Department of the IMF on VAT reforms. It is expected that the IMF mission will commence in April 2025. The recommendations from the Technical Assistance Mission are expected to inform our reform. Mr. Speaker, ahead of the IMF Technical Assistance Mission, I will inaugurate a VAT reform task force to hold broad consultation with key stakeholders for their input. Mr. Speaker, the parameters for VAT reform will be is for them to complete this year. Mr. Speaker, the parameters will include the following. 1, abolishing the COVID levy. Mr. Speaker, reversing the decoupling of Get Fund and NHIL VAT from VAT. Mr. Speaker, reducing the effective VAT rate for households and businesses. Reversing the VAT flat rate regime and upwardly adjusting the VAT registration threshold to exempt micro and small businesses from the collection of VAT. Mr. Speaker, will also improve compliance through public education and awareness. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to revenue mobilization and resource allocation. Mr. Speaker, total revenue and grant for 2025 is projected at 223.8 billion Ghana cedis, or 17.2% of GDP, up from 186.5 billion, or 17.4% of GDP. The projection is underpinned by non-oil revenue measures, which are expected to yield at least 0.6% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure on commitment basis for 2025 has been programmed at 269.1 billion, representing 20.7% of GDP, down from 279.2 billion, which is 26% of GDP in the year 2024. Primary expenditure on commitment basis is projected at 204.7 billion Ghana cedis, representing 15.8% of GDP, which is a significant decline from 232.4 billion, representing 21.7% of GDP in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, based on the resource allocation from 2025 fiscal year, the total appropriations for the year ending 31st December 2025 is 290,971,212,435 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, budget financing. Right, Honourable Speaker. Based on the estimate for total revenue and grant and total expenditure, the projected overall balance on commitment basis is a deficit of 43.8 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 3.1% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance on commitment basis is a surplus of 20.3 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 1.5% of GDP. On cash basis, Mr. Speaker, overall balance is a deficit of 56.9 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 4.1% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance on cash basis is again a surplus of 7.3 billion, equivalent to 0.5% of GDP. Right, Honourable Speaker. The cash deficit of 56.9 billion is expected to be financed from both foreign and domestic sources. The total foreign net financing will amount to 21.4 billion Ghana cedis. Foreign financing will include a provision for financing from IMF ECF program disbursed of 720 billion Ghana cedis and the World Bank Development Policy operations of 600 million Ghana cedis. The residual net domestic financing will amount to 36.9 billion, representing 65% of total financing for 2025. This is expected to be sourced from the issuance of debt at the short end of the domestic market and opening of the domestic market. Mr. Speaker, the government will take steps to reopen the domestic bond market to extend the maturity profile. The reopening will be executed cautiously to establish large-size benchmark bonds that will enhance market liquidity. Right Honourable Speaker, further is to reduce the risk on debt portfolio of government, and we will build cash buffers to support effective implementation of the liability management strategy. Mr. Speaker, this will help smoothen the redemption profile and mitigate refinancing risk associated with Ghana's debt portfolio. Mr. Speaker, the government in 2025 and the medium term will implement liability management operations to manage the risk embedded in the Eurobond debt profile. Right Honourable Speaker, beginning 2025, we will commence the operationalization of Section 37 to Section 44 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, we will be building sufficient buffers in the sinking fund as a landmark reform to manage our public debt. Right Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to report to the House that following our proactive fiscal management strategy, that in our engagement with the market, this management strategy has yielded sufficient dividend. Mr. Speaker, on the 7th of January 2025, the NDC government inherited a 91-day Treasury bill rate of 28.19%. Mr. Speaker, just 2 months into this administration, we have successfully reduced this rate to 17.72% as at last Friday. Mr. Speaker, this represents a reduction of over 10%. In other words, 1,047 basis points in just 2 months. Mr. Speaker, similarly, on the 7th January 2024, we inherited a 182-day Treasury bill rate at 28.92%. We have again successfully reduced that rate to 18.97% as at Friday, 7th March 2025. This represents a reduction of 995 basis points in only 2 months. The Speaker, again, on the 7th of January 2025, we inherited a 364-day Treasury bill rate of 30.15%. We have successfully reduced this rate to 19.93% as at Friday, 7th March 2025. Mr. Speaker, this represents a reduction of 1,022 basis points in just 2 months. Mr. Speaker, on average, rates have fallen by over 1,000 basis points, signifying a strong investor confidence, crowding in the private sector, reducing the cost of doing business, and overall acceptance of economic policies of President John Dramani Mahama, ultimately laying the groundwork for sustained macroeconomic stability. It has been done already. Mr. Speaker, Right Honourable Speaker, the key policy intervention to support economic transformation and job creation agenda include the following. Mr. Speaker, the 24-hour economy aimed at stimulating economic growth by creating an enabling environment for businesses and institutions to operate 24/7 in 3 shifts of 8 hours each to boost production, promote productivity, and generate well-paying jobs. We will be presenting the policy to Parliament in due course for consideration. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Act, the GIPC Act, and other enabling legislations will be reviewed to support the 24-hour economy policy. Right Honourable Speaker, we'll roll out the implementation of the $10 billion Big Push policy for strategic infrastructure development to open up the country and drive sustainable economic growth. Right Honourable Speaker, the Ghana Gold Board will be established in the course of the year and as soon as possible. So, Speaker, we will stabilize the Ghana cedi and provide stability to the macroeconomy. We will implement an economic transformational agenda underpinned by structural reforms anchored on promoting modernized agriculture, agribusiness, and value addition for import substitution, export, and job creation. Mr. Speaker, we will complement monetary policy with fiscal and rare sector policies to reduce inflation. Food inflation will be reduced through the implementation of the Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda anchored on our 24-hour economy. Right Honourable Speaker, we will undertake key structural reforms to support inclusive economic growth, fiscal and debt sustainability, sound public financial management, efficient public service delivery, and good governance. The Speaker will restructure the Bank of Ghana to strengthen its independence and operationalize its efficiency mandate. The Speaker will ensure that social protection is adequately catered for in the course of the year. We will use government procurement to drive Made in Ghana agenda to promote production and consumption of Made in Ghana goods. Right Honourable Speaker, to demonstrate this agenda, as I said, I came to this House with a presentation of a bag proudly made in Ghana by Horseman. Mr. Speaker, this should be encouraged. Right Honourable Speaker, beginning this year, we will formalize the export of Ghanaian labour to other countries. We will ensure a structured and beneficial system for Ghanaian workers seeking employment abroad and create safer legal pathway for them to work in foreign countries whilst protecting their rights and welfare. Mr. Speaker, this will also reduce illegal migration, prevent worker exploitation, and maximize the economic benefits of remittance and boost foreign exchange earnings. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to how these resources will be allocated in the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, we will provide a cedi equivalent of $279 million as a revolving fund for the Ghana Gold Board to be able to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week from small-scale miners. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for Big Push projects. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for the Big Push program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 499.8 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the non-academic fee policy for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions under the No Fee Stress initiatives. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated an amount of 292.4 million Ghana cedis to commence the distribution of free sanitary pads to female students in primary and secondary schools. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated again an amount of 242.5 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of Akosombo Dam spillage. Right Honourable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 200 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of tidal wave disaster that recently displaced residents in certain part of K2 South constituency. Mr. Speaker, the overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of dedicated sources of financing. His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved it. Mr. Speaker, let me take this again. The overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of a dedicated sources of funding. His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved the funding challenges by uncapping the GET fund. Mr. Speaker, this makes available dedicated funding for full financing of free senior secondary school education and free tertiary education for persons with disability. Mr. Speaker, therefore, Capping and Realignment Act will be amended to uncap the Ghana Education Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, this year, the budget for free senior secondary school education program is 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. By uncapping the GET fund, we will be making available an additional 4.1 billion Ghana cedis specifically for financing free secondary education program and other related expenditures. Mr. Speaker, aside the uncapping of GET fund, we have also absorbed the debt service made up of interest and principal from the Dache bond that GET fund contracted. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 564.6 million Ghana cedis for the provision of curriculum-based textbooks covering the following. 1. 4 sets of KG books and workbooks for about 2.8 million learners. Mr. Speaker, we have also provided for 4 sets of primary textbooks for about 800,000 learners. Mr. Speaker, we have also provided for 9 sets of SHS textbooks for about 540,000 learners. Right, Honorable Speaker, under the school feeding program, budgetary provision has been increased from the 1.3 billion Ghana cedis last year to 1.78 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, representing a 33% increase. The allocation for 2025 reflects an increase in feeding costs per meal, per child, from the 1 cedi 50 pesos to 2 cedis, representing 33.3%. Mr. Speaker, the government has also allocated 145.5 million Ghana cedis to the capitation grant, up from 84 million Ghana cedis in 2024. This is an increase of 73.4% over the previous year. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated 203 million Ghana cedis for the payment of teacher training allowances and another 480 million Ghana cedis to nursing training allowances. Mr. Speaker, we have uncapped the National Health Insurance Levy. Mr. Speaker, we have uncapped the National Health Insurance Levy. An amount of about 10 billion Ghana cedis has been programmed for the National Health Insurance Scheme. And this amount is expected to be used for the following: claim payments, essential medicine, vaccine payment, free primary health care, the Ghana Medical Care Trust, Mr. Speaker, and bridging the USAID financing shortfall. Mr. Speaker, in the year 2025, government will continue to implement reforms and increase budgetary allocation to enhance the implementation of 4 targeted social protection programs, namely National Health Insurance, the LEAP program, the School Feeding Program, and the Capitation Grant. Right, Honorable Speaker, under the LEAP program, beneficiaries will be increased from the current 350,000 to 400,000 beginning July 2025. The allocation of 728.8 million Ghana cedis for last year has been increased to 953.5 million Ghana cedis in the year 2025. So, Speaker, we have also uncapped the road fund. An amount of 2.81 billion Ghana cedis has been programmed for the Ghana Road Fund to be used solely for road maintenance. This represents an increase of 155% over the 2024 allocation of 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 7.5 billion Ghana cedis to the District Assembly Common Fund. In accordance with our decentralization policy, we propose to Parliament that a minimum of 80% of the funds allocated to the District Assembly Common Fund should be sent directly to the district assemblies to spur economic growth and at the district level to deepen decentralization. Right, Honorable Speaker, I repeat, we have allocated an amount of 7.5 billion Ghana cedis to the district assemblies common fund. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with our decentralization policy and objective, we propose to Parliament that a minimum of 80% of the funds should be sent directly to the district assemblies to spur economic growth at the district level and deepen decentralization. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that in a stark contrast to what has happened recently at the District Assembly Common Fund, where only 50% of the released amount are sent to the District Assembly for the purposes of running the assemblies. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 1.5 billion Ghana cedis for Agriculture for Economic Transformation Program, of which Feed Ghana, Ghana Grains Development Project, Vegetable Development Project, and Nkoko Nketenkete are all key components of the program. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated 51.3 million Ghana cedis as seed fund for the establishment of the Women's Development Bank. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated 300 million Ghana cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, we have also allocated an amount of 300 million Ghana cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 100 million Ghana cedis to the EZRA program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to the National Codes Program. Mr. Speaker, another amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the payment of monthly allowance to all assembly members. Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, sector ministers will be presenting to this House a detailed sectorial performance and outlook, as well as, Mr. Speaker, sector ministers will be presenting to this House a detailed sectorial performance and outlook, as well as sector-specific policy interventions to deal with the challenges of various MDAs. So, Speaker, I want to repeat this. So, Speaker, sector ministers will be presenting to this House a detailed sectorial performance and outlook, as well as specific sector interventions to deal with the challenges of various MDAs. This is indeed a departure from the norm, where ministers of finance present detailed sectorial performance as part of their budget speech. So, Speaker, I believe sector ministers must be made to do so. Right Honorable Speaker, in conclusion. So, Speaker, in conclusion. Mr. Speaker, the state of the economy, as I have presented, does not reflect an economy that has turned the corner. It reflects an economy in severe distress, burdened with debt repayment harms, mismanagement, and lack of accountability. The budget sets Ghana on a path of fiscal responsibility, debt sustainability, macroeconomic stability, and job creation. It is about resetting the economy and restoring hope. Ghanaians reaffirmed their faith in a better future when they actively participated in the National Economic Dialogue on the 3rd and 4th of March 2025. A key outcome of the dialogue was the confirmation that the fundamental problem with our economy is fiscal indiscipline. The NPP administration awarded contracts outside the expenditure framework. They borrowed over and above Ghana's capacity to repay. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahamad's administration will be fiscally disciplined and deliver improved public service to our people in a cost-effective manner. Mr. Speaker, we remain steadfast in meeting the IMF program target while restoring Ghana's creditworthiness. We have achieved a lot in a short time, but this is only the beginning. Our commitment to reform we will not waver on that, Mr. Speaker. We have achieved a lot in this short time, and our commitment to reform will not waver. Those who doubt our resolve should not underestimate the determination of the people of Ghana, who will no longer tolerate ineffective governance. Together, we will navigate these turbulent times and emerge stronger. Mr. Speaker, we are making serious progress. Right Honorable Speaker, we are making progress. We committed to running a lean, efficient government of 60 ministers. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to scrapping the e-levy. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to scrapping the burden tax. We have delivered. Right Honorable Speaker, we committed to eliminate academic fee for first-year public tertiary students. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to providing free tertiary education for all people with disability. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to providing dedicated source of funding for free secondary education. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to distributing sanitary pads to our schoolgirls. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to uncap get fund. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to uncap the national health insurance. We have delivered. Right Honorable Speaker, we committed to uncap the road fund to maintain our roads. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to hold a national forum on education. We have delivered. Right, Honorable Speaker, we committed to hold a national dialogue on the economy. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to deliver free primary health care. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to deliver Mahama Care Program to finance the treatment of non-communicable disease. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to deliver free textbooks to school children. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to begin the implementation of $10 million Big Push program. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to constitute a review process for our constitution. Mr. Speaker, we are delivering. Mr. Speaker, we committed to build the Ghana we want together. We are delivering. Right, Honorable Speaker, we committed to recover all looted state funds under our Operation Recover All Loot program. We are delivering. Mr. Speaker, we committed to reset Ghana. We are delivering. Right, Honorable Speaker, I call on Parliament, the business community, civil society, investors, and all citizens to support the bold reforms outlined in this budget. Together, Mr. Speaker, we have the power to build a resilient economy that will help us tackle the challenges we face as a country. This budget is a foundation upon which we will build a more resilient and equitable society. Mr. Speaker, this budget is not just about numbers. It is about a blueprint for growth, stability, and opportunity. With unity and determination, we can restore faith in our economy, foster innovation, and uplift every Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, with unity and determination, I repeat, we can restore faith in our economy, foster innovation, and uplift every Ghanaian. Right, Honorable Speaker, on behalf of His Excellency the President, I invite this House to join hands with us as we work to build the Ghana we want together. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much. Idebi Keke.
Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members, the Minister for Finance has taken 1 hour 40 minutes to make the statement. And I believe by our standing orders, the statement time is ended. We now move on to the commencement of public business. Item 8, presentation of papers. The following papers to be presented. Presentation of papers. The following papers to be presented. 8 by the Minister for Finance.
Annual report on the petroleum funds for the 2024 fiscal year.
Honorable members, this refers to 8A Roman 1, and this has been presented and is referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report to the House. We now move on to 8A Roman 2.
Annual report on the collection and utilization of the African Union import levy for the 2024 fiscal year.
Honorable members, this report is also duly laid and is referred